AP has always been that like underground thing that you felt like no one knew about except for you, you know, because it was like that punk rock vibe, and it was all the bands that you wanted to go see and the thing that you waited for every month. And
I discovered a ton of new bands from AP, you know, and like some of my favorite bands just from seeing them either on the cover or the stories inside. So, you know, I give, you know, a lot of thanks. I think we wouldn't be here without that magazine or those people that work there. So
yeah, well, growing up, you know, there wasn't really anything else to catch up on music the way we listened to it. I mean, you had your Rolling Stones that would put Foo Fighters and Nirvana. I mean, not that they haven't had those too, but you know, for our kind of bands that we aspired to be, AP was what we had, you know what I mean? So when we first got our first cover, that was it. Like we were like, all right, well, we can be finished being a band now. And then we got more and more, and it's amazing that any part of us is hosting this tonight, and it's such an honor to be a part of it. We're both nominated, Best Bass, Best Drummer, and it's awesome, man. We're so happy.
Obviously, AP Magazine has been a big part of us coming up in the scene. We're thankful for everything they do, and it's just cool that our scene has an award show like this. How awesome is that? You know, this is the first time something like this has happened.
I think if you get into a style of music, like if you're into punk rock or emo or metal, whatever it is, you pick up an alternative press, and they talk about, you know, bands that a lot of other places don't talk about. So it's like, it's the magazine for a whole subculture that a lot of people don't know exists.
Hi, I'm Mike Shea. I'm the founder of Alternative Press.
Hi, I'm Josh Bernstein. I'm the director of sales for Alternative Press and one of the award show producers.
Well, there's always going to be an alienated kid that lives in the suburbs. So, and it doesn't matter if you were into Nirvana, or if you were into the Ramones, or if you're into Fall Out Boy, or if you're into, you know, Black Veil Brides or something like that, or you're into Issues or Mice and Men or something. There's always going to be that kid out there that's just slightly different. It kind of rebels just a little bit, maybe dyes their hair and puts a, you know, piercing or whatever it is. And so we kind of represent that kid, that misfit. And so we don't look down on them. There's no condescension. We're not like, go kid, you know, we know better. Like, you don't know music. We don't do that. And that was the reason why AP was started, because, you know, I used to go into record stores when I was 18 and go into these indie record stores, and that counter clerk would be there, and he'd kind of sneer at me when I walk in, and kind of like, why are you here? Like, you shouldn't be allowed here. Only cool people allowed here. And so I'm kind of like, I've always kind of felt AP was there to kind of, for that kid.
I grew up one of those kids, so like, you know, and I grew up a reader of this magazine. So for me, absolutely. And these bands are all passing ships in the night. They see each other in catering or, you know, backstage at a tour somewhere, but they're never all in the same room. So to get to do that, get those pictures together, bro hugs, whatever happens, that's like a really special thing. These bands, as we know, all know well, they sell just as much as the bands on the MTV Awards. They play the same rooms, they play the same crowds. These guys are selling records in a world where records don't even sell anymore. But they're not invited to those other cool parties, so we started our own party, and it's worked out well.
We kind of first got introduced to Alternative Press on the Warped Tour years ago. There was an Alternative Press tent, and we would do signings there every day. And so we got to know the people that worked at Alternative Press and started reading it, and then they gave us a cover, which was a really big deal for us. And now, yeah, we still read it.
The APs were all over the ceiling in my room. She actually saw it the first time she ever went over to my house before my parents turned my childhood bedroom into the guest room in our house. I still had all my stuff up there. And I remember reading and finding on the back that it was made in Cleveland, and it blew my mind that something that I loved so much was an Ohio thing, you know what I mean? Because for me, it was such an odd connection. You very rarely see things like that. Obviously, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame being here, but as a young kid, I just thought, wow, it's so odd that it was in Ohio, and so I had such a close connection with it that to be in the magazine, to be on the cover as many times as I have been, and to be able to be involved in the awards is a huge honor.
You know, we have a great relationship with Alternative Press, and when you look at what the magazine has done in the past 30 years, they've broken some iconic bands. They've been the voice that has otherwise been marginalized. And you feel like if you're going to tell the story of rock and roll, you got to tell the story of Alternative Press, because they're out there really fighting, really trying to sometimes just stay alive.
I am Christopher Benton, creative director of Alternative Press magazine. We are here at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum. I mean, for AP, you have to talk about photography. I mean, the roots of the photography and the roots of AP is like a fanzine. I mean, as a fanzine, we are still that, you know, no matter how big, no matter that we're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum, we are still that, you know, we are still a fanzine at its core. And the photos are the root of all of that. The bands that give a shit are my favorite covers. And you can tell every single one of them that cared and like put into it and let us experiment with them and collaborated with us. I mean, you can always tell they're not lined up against a brick wall, looking bored.
Yeah, I think the favorite artifact from that exhibit is Mike Shea's desk, because this is a guy who was doing it out of his mother's dining room, not because he wanted to make money or not because he wanted to get famous, because nobody else was doing it.
In the beginning of AP, we didn't have an office. We had my bedroom. And then we were there for about 4 years. And then we went into my editor's apartment because his roomie moved out. And so he kind of let us take over the rest of the apartment. And he kind of had a deal. He's like, you guys can take over the living room, the dining room, and parts of the kitchen. But if there's a girl that comes over, you guys got to get out. So, and then we moved into like an apartment quadplex, and we worked in there for many years, and then we kind of got a real office space like that. So we were kind of squatting for a while, illegally. So very British in a way, kind of punk rock. We saw that there wasn't something like this for this community of misfits, all these kids in our crowd, and and we kind of needed a party for everybody. We needed a day for the whole community to kind of come together. So it really wasn't like, the award show part was second. It was really more about getting everybody to have a day of celebration and family reunion of all these misfits, so to speak. And so that's why we started doing it. So Kevin Lyman came on board with us, and he routed Warped Tour right through on the right day. And then he routed the Mayhem Festival on the same day. And then the Fall Out Boy Paramore Tour came in the same day. And then Panic at the Disco hightailed it from Kansas City. It turned into a huge family reunion, and all these artists now want to come back. Like this year, they're all doing it. We're getting more people coming back. Like we have more smaller bands that would probably play side stage at Warped Tour that aren't on Warped Tour this summer, but that routed their tour so they could be near Cleveland and they can make it here for the show, just because they want to come and hang out. And that's awesome.
Yeah. Right now, it's like we have such a good team in place that I feel confident that how bad could it get? Because
now you've cursed it.
I cursed it. I jinxed it. But there's so many good people here working on the team, all from top to bottom, that I feel like we're in a good place. And I feel like all the bands are getting excited, and the fans, the momentum online has already kind of been building, and press and articles. So I think we're good. I just need to. I'm sure we just both need to eat.
You're right. It's eat and some coffee.
Yeah. Some of the most exciting performances for me are Sum 41 is reuniting after obviously a horrible medical scare and many years. The original guitarist came back on stage, and then they played with DMC of Run DMC, which is a childhood dream of mine. I'm a huge fan, and top to bottom, Panic at the Disco playing Bohemian Rhapsody. Paris playing their new hit song, All Time Low saluting like every punk song ever was ever written. That's an incredible moment. I just can't say enough about saving this man's life right now.
No, that's okay. Well, at least don't go down on camera.
There's going to be so many good performances, and then there's a little band called Weezer at the end that I've heard are very good. So that's going to be all very exciting.
Sum 41. They do this. Everybody do this. It's the sign. Am I doing it the right 41. Way? No. 41. No. You got to do the middle finger. Oh, 41. Yeah, 41. There it is. That's right. 41, baby.
It's been a while.
Sum 41. They're back. They're back. We're excited.
Better than ever, I heard.
Well, yeah, it's been a little while since we've really been out there playing, so it's just great to be back at it again. It's great to do it with AP.
We feel pretty great. Jake is nominated for Philanthropy. Matt is nominated for Best Drummer, so we're really excited. Crossing our fingers that they win.
To me, we've been super excited just about coming. This is our first AP Awards. So we heard that it was a blast last year, and we couldn't come. We were on tour, and so now we're finally able to be here. So I'm making so many new friends, and so many bands that we never get to tour with,
I know. So we never get to play with these kind of bands. I'm so far removed from those people, but we've toured with a lot of these bands, and we know a lot of these people, so it's just really cool to be a part of that.
Weezer.
Yeah, Weezer for me as well. Never seen him, been a fan for many years.
I would have to go with Weezer.
I'm stoked to see Weezer.
Weezer,
yeah.
Of course, Weezer.
Yeah, I gotta say I'm excited to see Weezer.
I've actually never seen them live, believe it or not.
It was like the first tape I ever had, so I gotta see Weezer,
I was going out of my mind. I couldn't believe that I got to perform with Weezer. And Weezer is one of those bands that completely influenced the way that I write and play. I told Rivers this, that the first song that I ever learned to play on guitar was Butterfly. So to perform with them when they're a band that influenced me so much was unbelievable. I could not believe it.
I was reading about bands like Quicksand and
Sunny Day Real Estate and stuff like that. Yeah, AP, you know. And then like when a lot of the third wave emo stuff happened, and they were covering bands that I just were friends with. You know, I was just like, oh, like that's cool. You're on the cover of this magazine that I saw at Target. You know, so yeah. And then I've since become pretty good friends with everybody at AP, and they've always been really good to the band and to me. So I'm excited to be a part of it.
It's cool how the music has changed and AP stayed relevant, and now like it seems like it's bigger than ever. And this is like crazy with everybody here. Like Corey Taylor's like right there. This is fucking crazy. It's really cool.
It's always been like kind of a hallmark for us. You know what I mean?
A lot of people have been saying that. But what was it like the first time you opened up that magazine and the words "Mayday Parade" were in it?
Oh, it's kind of like vindication for what you're doing in a little way. You know what I mean? Just to see that. I mean, it's a great feeling. You know.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when I was 16 years old, I always wanted to be on the front cover of AP because it was the magazine for me.
These musicians are really interesting creatures, and they kind of influence people's lives so much, and just whether it's the melody or it's the hook or it's the lyric, and the kid puts it on their arm and tattoos it and stuff like that. And so you kind of want to inspire that, and you want to nurture that and get these artists to feel like to grow.
I think it's a voice of a lot of people that are not usually heard. You know, I feel like in the mainstream media, there's like the alternative and then there's pop, but it's not always this scene. You know, like I feel like alternative press kind of taps into another scene that maybe is not as exposed on the regular channels. So I think to me, when I still get the magazine in my house every month, it's cool to see, like, to tap into that world, you know, that doesn't really get a whole lot of exposure otherwise, you know, whether it's the Warped Tour or AP. I feel like it's such a big scene that is so important in our youth, but it doesn't get a lot of exposure, and this is the way to get into it. So I think it's really cool.